Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And Stoney.
Hello.
What are we talking about for today? What we got?
Well, I mean, I threw out an idea. It's all in the news right now. It's really all in the news right now.
Yeah.
It's this Department of Governmental Efficiency, this DOGE thing, and President Trump campaigned on this.
Yep.
So there's no surprises here of what he wanted to do, and some of the things that he has found
Oh, man.
of where our tax dollars are being spent is quite shocking. So I thought it would be a very good discussion point to talk about this. And
Well, the first thing I would like to throw out there, I found this. Ex-USA Chief Samantha Power's net worth skyrocketed from $6.7 million to $30 million on a $180,000 salary. Please tell me how. She was Biden's ex-USA chief, saw her wealth explode during that time. Where did the extra $23 million come from? And all of that in just 3 years.
Wow.
But then when you look at some of the things of where the money goes, like the one big thing now, they're going after the Pentagon next, right?
Yeah.
They're going after the Pentagon. One of the first things that popped up, and you said something in your trip, sushi. Okay. The Pentagon spent $600 million on sushi.
Get out.
That's 26,000 employees and a $600 million annual sushi budget where each worker gets $23,077 per year or $92 per workday for sushi, enough for high-end sushi daily or luxury several times a month. Oh, yeah. And a lot of them work from home.
Oh, no.
Please explain that one to me.
That's crazy.
How do you have a multi-million dollar budget for sushi? Where's that money going from? I have a friend of mine that lost his job.
Right.
He was working for the USAID thing, and they were so close. They had a multi-year study so close on figuring out what women mean when they say, I'm fine. So now decades of research is down the toilet.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
That was funny.
I know.
Okay.
I know. It's, I just was shocked. Did y'all see the list?
Yes. Oh, I have several lists for us. 1.5 million in advanced DEI in Serbia. 70K DEI musical in Ireland. 47K transgender opera in Colombia. 32K transgender comic book in Peru. A transgender clinic in India. 1.5 million to a Serbian LGBTQ group. $164 million to support radical organizations. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. 20 million Sesame Street show in Iraq. 4.7 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. 10 million for Al Qaeda link. 7.5 million to train Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gender language. 1.5 million to promote LGBT in Jamaica. 1.5 to rebuild Cuban media. 1.5 art for inclusion of people with disabilities. 3.9 million LGBTQ causes in Macedonia. And 8.3 for equity and inclusion education in Nepal.
Wow.
That's just the start of the list.
That's a lot of money.
But yet we can only give the people in North Carolina a $750 million loan when the hurricane goes through there and floods everything.
$750 million?
$750 dollars. Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, just now I'm looking on X. Ellen exposed that FEMA is still sending taxpayer dollars to illegals. Just last week, having spent $59 million to illegals for luxury hotels in New York
City. Yes.
Which is just,
yeah.
I mean, look, I'm gonna tell you, when I first saw that list, there was a lot of LGBTQ stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the woke agenda. It's the woke agenda.
I am just absolutely floored that we are exporting this sort of stuff to the rest of the world.
But what you have to understand is, and they've proven that a lot of these things, a lot of this money comes back to the politicians. Most of it's not being spent on that. It's coming back to the politicians. And the politicians, like that one, USAID lady who was running it, that's apparently $23 million of that came back to her.
So it's almost like a money laundering operation.
It is a money laundering operation. That's exactly what it is. And that's why the Democrats right now are losing their effing mind.
Because they're losing their money.
Because they're losing their money, and their illegal bureaucracy is coming back to, they're going to get them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading right now on this article. This is a must read. I'm reading a site called Must Read Alaska, and it's a DOGE examples of federal spending that could be on the chopping block. Billions to maintain office buildings, many of which are empty as employees, as you mentioned, work from home. $6 million for the United States Agency for International Development to boost tourism in Egypt. I don't understand that. $400 million of taxpayer dollars for presidential campaigns.
Oh, one of my favorite ones was, and this is not a lot of money for them, but $103,000 for research to see, do sunfish get more angry after drinking gin or tequila?
Excuse me?
Wait, what?
Did you see the one in South Africa?
Which one?
There was some money that was sent. I think it was $6 million. I'd have to double check that. I don't see it here, but it was one of those. It was one of those that were on the list that was first released by Elon Musk on X. It was something $6 million to promote men having sex with men in South Africa.
Well, how about the 27?
I have no idea why you would need spend.
Because South Africans don't agree with homosexuality, so they're trying to push that agenda there. How about the $27 million to give gift bags to illegals before we deport them?
Get out.
$300 million for Afghanistan diesel fuel power plants. $27 million from USAID to Black Lives Matter through the Tides Foundation. Here's one of my favorite ones: $5 million to the Wuhan lab in China.
We've found out now what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I see one here: $1.2 million in taxpayer dollars to find evidence that racism is to blame for poor sleep in minority communities.
Yeah, no, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how about this one? $120,000 to research why people want to escape from jail.
Yeah, pay me that money. I'll tell you the reason why.
$28 million for camouflage uniforms that you can see.
Mm-hmm. How about $20 million to a group related to a Russian player impeachment hoax?
And this is all stuff they've already cut, or it's like on the chopping block?
This is being cut. This is what they're finding out, and they're done with it.
This is the receipts they're finding.
Okay, really? That's cool.
$100 million for projects in wealthy Manhattan.
Okay. There you
What
go.
the world is that
Yeah.
about?
And then my favorite thing is like Elizabeth Warren comes out on the 30th of last month. There is nothing in the Constitution that says ordinary citizens have the right to see what we spend our tax dollars on.
Excuse me?
Yes. Excuse me. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and regular settlement, an account of receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published. So what Elon Musk is promoting is that now all laws, number one law, no pork. Every law must go through the House and the Senate singularly. Nothing. Oh, I'll vote for your law if you put the playground in my children's blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay? And also, the law must be presented to the people, 7 days in advance?
Yes.
So no more of this 3 o'clock in the morning thing when everybody else is sleeping.
Oh, I mean, some of this stuff is just unbelievable.
Okay, here you go. I'm going to give you this one. These are the kickbacks just from the Ukrainian officials have given. Joe Biden, $92 million. Mitch McConnell, $89 million. Nancy Pelosi, $86 million. Chuck Schumer, $66 million. Lindsey Graham, $82 million. Mitt Romney, $71 million. John Cornyn, $41 million. Adam Schiff, $62 million. Dan Crenshaw, $20 million. Elizabeth Cheney, $77 million. And it looks like she might be going to jail. Kevin McCarthy, $42 million. Jamie Raskin, $38 million. Mike Pence, $61 million. Greg Pence, $17 million. Rick Scott, $63 million. Hakeem Jeffries, $74 million. Ilhan Omar, $33 million. And Elizabeth Warren, $42 million.
That's a lot of money.
It's all a money laundering scam.
Here's one I think is pretty interesting. Part of New York's $9 billion in federal COVID funding went to train staff in culturally responsive, sustaining instruction and privilege, and to recognize equity warriors.
Okay.
I don't know how that anything to do with COVID at all.
I don't know.
200,000. Here's one close to home. 200,000 spent by the Department of Defense on Starbucks espresso machines.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you see what they spend in just the cups?
That goes back to the stories you heard in the 80s with $10,000 toilets and stuff like that.
No, those were true. Those were not joking. That was true. The $10,000 for a bag of nuts. And I'm not talking about nuts. I'm talking about, metal nuts that go with screws.
Okay.
$426,250 for an app to encourage Latino men to exercise.
And the government spent money on that.
Yes, that's what the government spending
All
money
this
on.
is coming from
USAID.
when you file your federal income tax. This is part of that money. This is where it's going.
That makes me sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just how I've said it along.
Yeah.
We got off the track somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we just have. And I just, our ancestors would be just shaking their heads going, what in the world?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Can you imagine you turn all that money and actually try to help the citizens of this country?
This country. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Constitution says. If you follow the Constitution, none of this money leaves the American border. None of it.
I mean, we have just, this is just.
And then you got this judge coming out saying that he's going to block the president from firing executive branch employees. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. The Constitution makes it clear that all executive power is vested in the president, and Congress needs to impeach all of these judges now that are pulling this political bullshit.
Well, I think there's I don't think a judge can just, I'll be honest with you, I think that's his prerogative as the executive branch.
Exactly.
To look at this spending. That's what
his job is.
Right. I don't understand. See, this is what happens, though. The left runs off and finds a judge that's sympathetic to them who's probably on the take too.
Oh, that's right.
That and basically, it's a temporary restraining order and blah blah blah. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, why do I need a judge telling me what? This is why we elect people to do these things. Right. I want to know where my taxpayer money is going. If it's going to those kind of places, it needs to be shown the light of day.
That's right.
People need to see this.
And that's why they're freaking out so bad, because it is being shown the light of day. What happens in darkness, we'll see the light. That's right. Biblical. And they are bringing it out for the American people to see, because I guarantee, the American people are tired. We, the people, have had enough. That's the saying right now. And we're done with it, because I believe in helping people. All right, I'm sorry. I'm a fiscal conservative with some slightly liberal tendencies. There are people out there who need help. Obviously, with me and my condition, with workman's comp and everything, there's people that need help. But you need to tell me how we're going to pay for it. And constitutionally, this is bullshit.
Well, and when they found out this USA deal, what had happened, this is how entrenched these people have become. They have basically ignored the direction of the president of the United States and doing their own thing. I mean, this is what I'm saying. They don't feel like they even answer to the U.S. government anymore.
Well,
that's
right. I mean, to be devil's advocate a little bit, we had a president for 4 years that
was just absentee.
Yeah. I mean, so literally you had 4 years of people that are like, we can get away with anything.
Yeah.
Spend all the money you want, because it's not like he's going to check us.
Exactly
right.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're exactly right, and that's what's happened now.
Now I think we always talk about this pendulum, and I feel like this pendulum was swinging in their direction for so long, and now it's like I think people are upset.
Yeah, it's swinging back the other way.
Well, we got to start cutting
the
stuff.
irony, and y'all know,
of course,
I love the irony of this, right? Yeah. Okay, so the irony is that Democrats hired 82,000 armed IRS agents to audit the American citizen. But now they're upset that the federal government is being audited by the Republicans.
Of course.
Hello.
Because all their money is getting cut.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all their hidden pots.
Right.
Unfortunately, this is where, I hate to say it, this is where a lot of left-leaning groups are getting their money.
100%.
That's where they're getting their bucks, because they're sure not getting it from legit sources.
No, they're not. And they're finding out how much of our taxpayer dollars have been giving to, let's say in the last 4 years, Mexico has received $295 million. The Czech Republic has received $324 million. Estonia, $334 million. Lithuania, $339 million. Poland, $375 million. Romania, $397 million. Bulgaria, $431 million. Tanzania, $407, and the list goes on and on. Colombia, $731. Philippines, $800 million. Somalia, almost $998 million. Lebanon, $1 billion. Iraq, $2 billion. Jordan, $2.3 billion. Afghanistan, $6.1 billion. Egypt, $6.3 billion. $2.6 billion to Ukraine, and Israel gets $8.5 billion just in 4 years. So apparently, the bank is closed now.
I personally think I'm just thinking of how much that we can repair our own infrastructure in this country.
Yeah, with that kind of money.
Actually just started taking care of the homeland. There's ultimately this argument is always going to come out. America's role in the world. And America is the world's policeman. It provides defense for a lot of the world. And there are now financial arrangements and certain business practices that have evolved over time since the end of World War II. And unfortunately, I think this is what happens when it goes on for too long and you don't kind of rein this in a little bit, because you can get off the rails with some of this stuff. I'm all about, I believe the intention of U.S. aid when it was created was very noble. And I still believe, because I found it was interesting. I listened to an interview with Marco Rubio had with a reporter about this whole thing with USAID and, blah, 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 how it was, oh, you're taking away this. He goes, USAID, the original intent of USAID was very noble, and it still can be used in a very noble purpose.
Sure.
It was designed to help people with some really critical needs like food and water and stuff like that, and fixing maybe an area's infrastructure was destroyed because of war, to get some of that going. I can see utilizing money for that kind of stuff, but some of this social warrior type stuff is just completely off the rails. And it actually angers me of how much dollars were tied to LGBTQ stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, I find it offensive that this country has basically, without getting too biblical, we're horror Babylon type stuff.
Yeah.
We really are.
Yeah.
That we're pushing this kind of ideology that's coming from technically a country that was never founded on this kind of stuff at all.
Right.
And they have allowed these groups to get in there to drive some of this stuff, and they've just thrown up their hands and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, you can. You can stop it. I'm telling you, if Kamala Harris would have been elected president, this stuff we would never know.
Oh, right.
That's right.
It probably would have even gotten worse.
Oh, 100%.
And it's just, it just absolutely flabbergasted me of seeing so much tied to just stupid stuff.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
I mean, USAID had 10,000 employees with a $40 billion budget.
Wow.
That's bees.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That basically had little to no oversight and were just doling out money for whatever.
Well, see,
Now-
that's something else there, these oversight committees. Guess what? The oversight committee, which now the Democrats are bitching about the oversight, is supposed to be looking at these things for the American people and making sure that our money is spent the right way. But they've corrupted these oversight committees. They've done so much to them, put their people in place that until this has happened, and the American people should be wanting this, because this is your tax dollars. What have I said on the show before? If you can afford to be in 2 wars, you're taxing your people too much. Well, if you're doing this kind of stuff, you're taxing your people too much.
Yeah.
And this country was not founded on taxes. Oh, that's something else the Democrats are saying. Oh, Elon Musk is not an elected official. He has no right to come in here. Well, wait a minute. We didn't elect the IRS.
Yep.
We didn't elect the ATF, alcohol, tobacco. They're not elected. How many of these organizations that are abusing their power with the American citizen, we didn't elect them.
I'll be honest with you. I'm hoping that the ATF, that whole NFA deal gets completely reviewed and gutted.
I hope the ATF is gone, because they're trying to make rules that are not law and then trying to enforce them. And then now you got 87,000 armed IRS agents. I love what Donald Trump said about that. They're all fired, or they can be retrained as border agents.
That's where they need to go.
Yep.
We need, look, they finally sent the military down to the border.
Mm-hmm. And then what? He starts putting these tariffs on countries, and they all caved. Did you see that?
Yep.
Because
Canada,
we
Mexico.
give Canada $80 billion a year just to stay afloat.
Well, look.
How about we just cut their money off and see how long they even last?
I will tell you, these countries like Canada and a lot of Europe, that we provide the defense umbrella, and the amount of money that we spend, because the Pentagon's budget's $800 billion.
Mm-hmm. Which is too much.
Which the amount of money that is going to defend these countries, and then in turn, these countries can offer these generous social benefits to its citizens. And there they sit and claim about, oh, we got socialized medicine and all. Well, no wonder why you can do all
because America's paying for it.
Because we're paying for it.
Well, think about it. What happened? Mexico caved. They're bringing.
They sent 10,000 nationals to the border.
Panama caved to a certain extent. They're still not going to let us bring our ships through there free, but they're caving and they're kicking China out. Venezuela caved. Canada is panicking. Mass deportations. Our hostages are home. DEI programs are ended. Bureaucracy is being slashed on a daily basis. FBI purges are underway. USAID funding is canceled. Gender ideology is eliminated. DOGE has already saved billions and billions and billions of dollars. 51 intel agents have lost clearance, including Joe Biden.
Yeah, he needs to lose clearance.
Border crossings have dropped by 93%
Wow.
in 3 weeks. Oh, and guess what happened in California? The reservoirs filled up with water.
Amazing how that works, huh?
Really?
Yes.
It's amazing how that works.
What?
It's amazing how that works when actually
When somebody with enough balls out there says, turn the valve off and quit pushing it in the ocean.
Yep.
to keep a fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
To keep a fish. Meanwhile, we're going to let Los Angeles burn to the ground, but we protected a certain fish. I mean, I just.
And we almost, caused Las Vegas to die of thirst, taking their water away just to power them and give them water.
This is what I'm talking about. If we really turned a lot of those dollars, really,
just
if they were saying to rebuild the United States, you can fix all these things.
Yes.
They can do all this. We could fix the flooding issues in New Orleans. You could fix the drought issues in Las Vegas and in California. You can fix all these things that are causing problems, but we're spending so much money trying to take care of other parts of the world. Look, and I get that. We do have treaty obligations, and we have to honor that. That's part of...
According to the original Constitution, we shouldn't be in those damn treaties in the first place.
Well, that's part of that goes back to what happened after World War II. I'm just telling you.
If we were followed by the original Constitution, our asses wouldn't have been in World War II.
Yeah, well...
Okay, we'd have just went out there, kicked Japan's ass for attacking us, and left it alone. See, follow the original Constitution, and a lot of this stops.
Well, I mean, there's been changes to the Constitution since the original document, though, was founded. And, I mean, the reality is, as I said, once America became the world policeman after World War II, it changed. And I would venture to say what happened, the federal government changed with FDR and the New Deal.
Yes.
But
even the New Deal in its original plan was it was to help the American people, but it got turned into something else too.
Well, but,
everything starts honorably.
Well, of course it does. There's always a noble purpose why certain movements form, and there's certain processes that are put in place to help mitigate those issues. I would venture to say a lot of that is now past. There's no need for that kind of stuff anymore. It's just, but what happens is jobs get attached to it. There are careers that are formed, and
this is all that pork gets kind of put on stuff.
That's where it starts building, and I get that, and it's just we've as I said, and look. Republicans also have a lot to blame.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
They have a lot to blame. There's a lot of Republicans that are sitting at the trough, for stuff. But, the fact of the matter is they want to deliver for their constituents. And so they're always going to be looking for money. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Because everybody's going to say, well, why am I electing you? What did you do for me lately? So, I mean, there's always going to be that give or play. I just think there needs to be somewhat of a kind of a realignment of some of these things. Look at USAID and go, okay, let's keep the most critical things going.
There are no critical things. Shut the damn thing down.
Well,
okay?
I think
U.S. aid is designed to go outside of America
Correct.
and help people. Shut it down. It's over. End it.
Well, I think that's going to be tied. I don't think I'm not necessarily somebody that would think we need to end it. I'm more of a let's look at it, cut out all the BS.
Yeah.
And
describe what your BS is. So you may say this is BS. This person over here is going to say this isn't. This person over here is going to say this is. Nobody's going to agree on it. So just end the damn thing and keep all the money in America.
I would think if it's not dealing with food and water and in life's essentials, then it needs to go. But if it's directly tied to feeding people, providing clean water, okay, I can go with that. I could, as a compromise, I could go with that. I think there just needs to be a lot of oversight, and people have got to look at these things and go, and you can't just bow to the political pressure, because that's what happens. You start bowing to the political pressure. You got people calling you going, look, I need this, I need that. It happens all the time. Everybody wants to take care of their buddy.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to take care of their buddy. That's what I'm saying. There needs to be strict guidelines put in place to say, does this meet these strict guidelines? And okay, you get money. If it doesn't, oh well. You're not going to get it. Right. You know, we shouldn't be in the business of promoting social engineering anyway.
No.
Period. That's not what USAID was created for. Now, I mean, there's merits, what you said about shutting the whole thing down. I get that. I understand the idea that, hey, we're never going to...
You know what? This is what Trump said. He said, shut it all down, and when we reopen it, make sure that their political ideologies align with ours. Right. Then maybe open the faucet up a little bit. But to do it right, shut the damn thing down. And then make sure, like you said, that it is really needed.
Right.
Shut it down for right now.
Well, I think they're going to move it. I think it's going to be moved. I think it's now been moved under the Secretary of State's. He's the administrator now.
Okay.
So Rubio is now the administrator of USAID.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. As I said, keep the original intent of why it was done, cut out all the BS, have strict guidelines for the disbursement of money, and everything is lined item where it can be tracked and audited. Yep. That's the key. Right. It's these kind of general disbursements that kind of get lost in the weeds. Now, we're just talking about USAID.
Right.
Wait till you get to the Pentagon.
Wait till they get to the State Department and the Pentagon and some of these other agencies, Department of Education.
Oh, you saw the congressman tried to get in, and they wouldn't let him in.
Shut the whole thing down.
Really?
It needs to be that whole function needs to be dissolved.
Yes.
That's one agency I personally think does not need to be at the federal level. Or if it is, it needs to be scaled back 90%. And most of that money that's going right now to fund that department, just need to send it back to the states. Because education has always been a state level issue. It's not a federal government issue. See, this is once again.
But that was J.D. Rockefeller coming in, starting in 1905, wanting stupid, non-creative people to work in his factories.
Well,
and the federal government bought into it because they want stupid people too that they can fool and steal their money through taxes and everything
Jimmy
else.
Carter created the Department of Education. Yeah. That was created in the 70s. That should have never been done because, once again, you create another governmental entity, it does nothing but grow. I've yet to run into a governmental entity that doesn't grow. They all grow. Right. There's jobs and everything else, grants. I know there's a lot of grants that go through the Department of Ed. They're going to have to work through that, how that's going to work, how all that money gets turned back to the states. But, yeah. I mean, that was Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education. It was officially created in his presidential his term.
But there were other ways they were doing it before then. J.D. Rockefeller, and this is not something I'm making up. You can go back and look at it. We've discussed it on the show. He started it. He started in 1905 with a $125 million gift to the federal government twice.
Proponents of DOGE have said that they have suggested up to $2 trillion in government waste can be cut from the federal budget through the reduction of spending, eliminating government programs, and trimming the federal workforce. Now, that was another interesting story. You saw that?
Mm-hmm.
Trump was going to basically get people to retire, I'll pay you a package to leave, and some judge basically stopped it, blah, blah, blah.
Well, they can't do that. The judge can't do that. So that's what I was talking about earlier. There's no federal judge that can do that. That's the executive authority of the president. That's what it's about. That's what he's for. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, it says the national debt has surpassed $36 trillion. Now, I saw another article that our debt may actually not be that high as what it depends on what. Of course, once again, when any numbers put out there,
right,
it depends on what criteria they're using to determine what the national debt is. I saw something that it may actually not be as much. I don't know. It's still far, and it far exceeds what it needs to be. But we're spending money we don't have, and this is what I'm telling you, it's just we have to have an awakening on how much money we can just keep spending. I mean, you have to kind of sit back and go, okay, we need to kind of realign this and get this back under control. Because
think about it like this. What if a judge tried to tell a military general how to conduct a military operation? That would be illegal, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what if a judge tried to command the attorney general on how to use his or her discretion as a prosecutor? Would that not be illegal? So Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power.
Well,
it's that simple.
There have been other attempts to do what DOGE is doing. This is actually not the first time.
Bill Clinton tried it.
That this happened. But
Bill Clinton fired a whole bunch of people when he came into office, but he did it as an end around. Instead of having federal employees that were controlled by the federal government, they hired independent contractors to come in and fill these roles that could be more controlled.
Well, President Theodore Roosevelt in 1905 set up the Keep Commission, which attempted to place the conduct of the government on the most economical and effective basis in light of the best modern business practice.
Okay.
And has been hailed as the first of the orderly examinations into federal administrative problems. I didn't realize that.
Wow.
5 years later, President William Howard Taft was appropriated $100,000 by Congress to inquire into the methods of transacting the public business of the government in several executive departments and other government establishments, with the view of changing old methods so as to attain greater efficiency, and recommend to Congress what changes in law may be necessary. Now, what you talked about, President Bill Clinton's administration launched a National Partnership for Reinventing Government, NPR, led by Vice President Al Gore, with the goal,
who invented the internet, by the way.
Right, yeah. With the goal to make the federal government work better, cost less, and get results Americans cared about. Gore said, "We are turning some of today's agencies into smaller, sleeker organizations that won't look like government at all. They will be like private companies with a real CEO to contract to cut costs and a free hand when it comes to the remaining government rules." President Obama signed an executive order in June of 2011 establishing the Campaign to Cut Government Waste. that created an 11-member oversight and accountability board with a stated mission to give taxpayers the same ability to track where their dollars are going and to have same confidence that the dollars are not being lost to waste, fraud, or abuse, and not just for recovering Act dollars, but more broadly. Steve Davies, president of Boring Company Musk Tunneling Operation, said Michael Krastios, his former U.S. Chief Technology Officer, are among those leading interviews of potential DOGE employee candidates, according to people familiar with the effort. So there's been attempts over the last 100 years.
But I think they were shady attempts. I don't think this is a shady attempt. I think everybody's still trying to hide something. And this, these are the first guys that come out here who ain't got nothing to lose. Okay? Donald Trump isn't controlled by anybody. Elon Musk isn't controlled by anybody. They're not going to have to whitewash something. Oh, look, he's going to be hurt over here, his opinion, and he's not going to give me any more campaign money.
Right.
Okay. They don't have to worry about this. They're bringing this out. And what happens in the dark, we'll see the light. And we're bringing some of this shady government stuff out to the light, and we're cutting it. And hopefully they'll divert those funds back to the American people. And like you said, infrastructure. What did they say? Over 85% of our bridges should be condemned.
Exactly.
Okay. How about let's fix the bridges and some of the roads?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's just no money to be made spending money stateside. I hate to say it. All the lucrative stuff is outside of the United States, which is, that's what I'm saying. We've lost our way. We have lost our way with what, and it's greed.
Yeah. 100%.
It's greed.
100%.
You know, I mean, it's just absolutely the amount of money that we are just spending, and some of these Congress people becoming multimillionaires in a profession that's supposed to be public service.
It's actually not supposed to be a profession. That's the problem. They weren't hired to be permanent politicians in the original Constitution with the original people. You came in, you did something, and you left. Now these people, I mean, Joe Biden's been doing it since the 80s. Pelosi's been doing it since, 87 or whatever. This is not the intent of the politics in the world. You're supposed to come in, make a difference, and get out. Look after the American people. You're not supposed to be career politicians. That's not the intent of the government.
And I saw some of those charges of money went out to local news agencies.
Oh, absolutely.
And you wonder why all of a sudden they were reporting the way they were reporting.
Oh, absolutely. They paid Politico hundreds of billions of dollars to cast a shadow and go in their direction.
Yeah, that's so.
I'm excited to see where this is going.
You know, George Soros made $280 million from USAID, and he was the one also funding Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I think this is going to probably be a net positive in the grand scheme of things, but I guess we'll see how that all pans out.
I hope it sticks.
I hope it sticks.
I hope it sticks and continues.
I think people are pretty tired of what's the status quo and the amount of waste that we have seen. So,
but we haven't known how bad it is.
Right.
Okay.
Now we do.
Now we in 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
we got numbers.
we got numbers and vision, and we can kind of see what's happening.
Yep.
And we can see how our rate, and this is both Republican and Democrats, because they're losing their money.
Right.
They're losing their bullshit.
Equal cuts. Well, with all that being said, I really want to hear from what some of you people have to say, because obviously this is this I think is affecting all of us in some way. So if you want to try and reach out to us, we have an email address, getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, where you can send us your more long form answers. We also have comment sections on things like Spotify and YouTube. Yeah, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today. You're the best. Peace.